latest news update from Western Mass News.
I'm Matt Satilli, and here's your latest news update from Western Mass News. One person is dead and 3 others are injured after an early morning crash on I-91 northbound in Longmeadow. The accident closed all 3 northbound lanes for hours until reopening shortly before 10:30 this morning. There's no word on the extent of the injuries of the 3 people taken to the hospital, and the cause of the crash remains under investigation. Police in Ware responded to a hit-and-run incident at Cumberland Farms yesterday. The accident involved a minor on a bicycle. When police arrived, they found the minor with serious injuries, and they were later transported to the hospital for evaluation. Debris indicated that the car in question might be a BMW E90 series with front-end damage and possibly missing the grille. It was last seen heading northbound on West Street towards Main Street. If you have any info, please contact Ware Police. After 5 weeks on the run, the Lupa Zoo in Ludlow is celebrating the return of Mary the antelope, who escaped from her enclosure last month. The president of the Lupa Zoo, Joan Lupa, tells Western Mass News her son Wally did most of the legwork, attracting Mary into an isolated area and camping out for weeks, giving her food in order to get her into the back of a trailer. Welcome home, Mary.
I'm First Alert meteorologist Don Maher. After a beautiful day to close out the weekend, going to be tracking a upper level system that's going to come through as we head towards the mid to late evening hours. And that's going to bring the chance for some showers around here. Looks like if you have plans early this evening, you should be just fine. It's as we get towards the late evening and into the overnight, we'll deal with the threat for some showers out there. The good news is, though, this will clear on out as we head towards tomorrow morning. In fact, as we wake up tomorrow morning, looks like we're waking up to sunshine, temperatures in the 50s. A lot of sunshine coming our way tomorrow. A bit of a breeze, but temperature is going to get into the lower 70s tomorrow afternoon. So we will be running a few degrees above normal for this time of year. And then if you have plans tomorrow evening, you should be just fine as well. In fact, backdoor cold front will come through later on Tuesday. That will cool us back into the mid to upper 60s. But we're dry for much of this week. Next chance for showers may not come until Friday. But as that happens, temperatures will be warming into the mid to upper 70s.
Stay with Western Mass News on air, online, and on our app throughout the day for breaking news, weather, and exclusive content.